Hi everyone, this is Phil Travis, and this week's announcement is for Modern Germany, Week 3. This week we'll be reading from our textbook, the Kitchen textbook, Chapters 7 and 8. We have a quiz this week, and the quiz shouldn't be too hard. The reading's not too long, and it's just based on those two chapters. And also, watch my recorded lecture. Every week I have that lecture up there for you, so watch that lecture because I touch on a lot of the information in that lecture. I touch on the information in the textbook in that lecture. So be sure to watch that lecture. I noticed that quite a few of you watched the lecture from last week and then did the reading, and helped us to put together the somewhat complex history, and that is Germany in the 1800s. Which really, when you think about it, should lend some credence to why constructing a German nation was such a major achievement for leaders like Otto von Bismarck in the latter 1800s. It's a very complex history. So we're reading chapter 7 and 8 from the Kitchen book. Watch my lecture. We'll have a quiz on it. The quiz is not designed to be overwhelmingly difficult. I'll give you a 25 or 30 minute time limit. And if you do the reading and you watch the lecture and you have that book out there while you do the quiz, you should be okay. You shouldn't have anything to really worry about there. Just make sure you prepare for it. I recommend do that work at the beginning of the week. Get it done by Thursday if you can. Take the quiz Friday or Saturday or Sunday if you want. And that way you'll be as prepared as you can. As prepared as you can possibly be. The quiz is the only other major assignment this week. Just read those two chapters and take the quiz. Watch my recorded lecture. So let's get right to the factoid. Don't forget, of course, we are moving along in the class. It's going, it goes so fast when we have these classes, but it seems like the weeks just get quicker and quicker every year that I'm teaching. But we will be pretty soon getting towards the time where we need to start thinking about papers. We have a paper in this class, of course, and I expect everyone to submit a paper proposal for that. So as we move closer to that, we'll start to talk about what I expect on that paper proposal for those of you who have not taken a course from me already. Many of you have already taken classes with me, at least some of you have, and so you should probably have a pretty good understanding of what I expect, not only on the papers, but also the paper proposal. So that's coming up in a few weeks, and we will talk more about that as we get a little bit closer to it. But if you have any out-of-the-gate questions right now, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you've already looked at the information on the syllabus on the paper, if you have further questions that hasn't answered it, please be sure to reach out, and I will help you as best I can as we move closer to major assignments like that. But this week, just the quiz, do the reading. I think everything is looking great in the discussion forum. Everyone is doing a really great job. I'm really happy with the engagement and the conversations that we're having in the discussion forum. So, looks good. The factoid. Oh, right. I haven't even explained to you the extra credit assignment in this class. Okay. In this class, we have kind of a fun extra credit activity that I like to do in all of my online classes. And the way this works is this. I want students to watch these announcements. Primarily because it helps you, if you watch these announcements at the beginning of the week, it helps you just tune in to the class. You start thinking about, okay, well, this is what we have going on this week. This is our readings for this week. I will talk a little bit about the history too, so it kind of touches on where we're going with it. So watching these announcements early in the week, I think, is a very important thing for us to do in the class. And so I encourage everybody to watch these announcements, and another way that I encourage that is by offering extra credit for watching these announcements. And I want you to watch the announcements before the end of the day on Wednesday. And so this is how the extra credit works. Every announcement, I will mention a factoid, a piece of information from the history that we're studying that may or may not be that well known. I try to find ones that are less well known. Though some of you who are in my class right now, never fail to surprise me when it comes to the amount of information you know about the history that we're studying. So you may or may not know the factoid that I'm using, but the idea is each week I try to offer a little factoid during the announcement. And each factoid is worth 1 extra credit point towards a test score at the end of the term. So right now, this is week 3, so we'll have a total of 7 of these for the rest of the term. For each one of those that you do, you get 1 bonus point added to a test score at the end of the term. If you do all of them, I give you extra bonus points, and you get 10. 10, I hurt my elbow, so I got to do 1. You get 10 bonus points if you do all of them. So you get a couple of freebies, a couple of free points in there for doing all of the extra credit factoids. When you send me the factoid, I take the email and I put it in a special folder. And then at the end of the term, I count everybody up. And then I add your points to a test score at the end of the term. To give you an idea, by the way, if you do them all, we're talking about the difference of like 3 percentage points on a final grade. So it's really an easy way to help yourself out, to get yourself from, if you're at an 87, to get yourself from an 87 to a 90, or a 77 to an 80, or heaven forbid, a 67 to a 70. But hopefully no one is in that boat in this class. Hopefully everybody's looking for a B or an A. So here's the factoid. The factoid is this. We're talking about, of course, the period in which Germany became unified as a nation, which of course occurs in 1871 following the Franco-Prussian War, or during the Franco-Prussian War. As Otto von Bismarck, as we've been discussing, used a number of wars to sort of create common grievances amongst the German people. The Austro-Prussian War, the Danish-Prussian War, and then of course ultimately the Franco-Prussian War, which resulted in the defeat of Napoleon III at the Battle of Sedan. And that war, the Franco-Prussian War, is really the final conflict that leads to unification of Germany under the leadership of Otto von Bismarck. This is what we'll be reading about this week, the creation really of this powerful German state in Europe that for many European powers they feared would offset the balance of power. We'll also be talking about the emergence of that Germany as a sort of German empire and its role in international relations during the latter 1800s. We'll talk about some of the strategies that Otto von Bismarck tried to use to sort of cobble together the political alliances necessary to maintain this large German state during his time as leader, during his time as chancellor. Bismarck is sometimes referred to as the Iron Chancellor. Here's the factoid. When the Nazis rose to power in 1933, the Nazis, of course, manipulated history significantly for their own ends in propaganda. And in that respect, the Nazis tried to construct this idea that they were the Third Reich, is what they called it, and they were somehow in direct connection to the history of Germany that went all the way back to the time of Charlemagne, who, of course, was crowned Holy Roman Emperor in 800 AD or CE. And so, the Nazis tried to convey this sort of manipulative idea of history that somehow the Nazis, which were, of course, an aberration, they were not similar to Otto von Bismarck. They were not in any kind of a direct historical lineage to Otto von Bismarck either. But the Nazis tried to convey this idea that they were the Third Reich, and that they were in direct connection to this long German history that involved 2 other Reichs. The First Reich being all the way back to Charlemagne, associated with the Holy Roman Empire. And, of course, the Second Reich, and this is the factoid, Nazi Germany suggested that the Second Reich represented the time of the German Empire under Otto von Bismarck. And so the factoid for this week is Otto von Bismarck, his time as Chancellor of Germany, that period of the German Empire leading up to World War I, was constructed through historical manipulation by the Nazis as being what they called the Second Reich. So the time of Otto von Bismarck leading the German Empire, and then ultimately, even up till after he was out of power, up till the First World War, was generally constructed by the Nazis as the so-called Second Reich. And that is the factoid for this week. So just email me that factoid no later than Wednesday by midnight, and you get a bonus point towards a final or a midterm exam at the end of the term. and we'll be doing this every week, and so hopefully everybody thinks it's fun and interesting. I find this a way to connect with you, teacher to student, and I really enjoy it, and I think students generally enjoy it as well. So just email me that factoid. You don't have to write me because sometimes I ramble, as you can see. You don't have to say everything. You just have to give me the gist of it. And sometimes you give me your own thoughts, and sometimes I hear your own ideas, and that's great too. So send me as much information as you want to, as long as it demonstrates that you watch these announcements and you sent me that factoid. All right, let's have a great week.